Before I became a real estate agent, I was a personal trainer. I was coaching CrossFit. I was helping people get jacked and tan, look good naked, you name it. And I loved doing it, but we always would have people come in. I didn't even know I was in sales at the time, except I was, because we would have people come into the gym and they're like, why should I do CrossFit? And it was always interesting because I asked them like, well, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? And they all said the same thing. I want to look like the dude or the chick that's in the CrossFit games. I want to be jacked. And I was like, well, we have to have a talk about a few other things, but if we can set up some goals for you to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, and to get there, how long are you willing to stick with it? And most people are like, well, I want to see results in a month, or I want to see results in 6 months. And people would tell me what they wanted. And then from there, we could figure out what they were trying to accomplish. We could give them nutrition resources. We could give them, additional stuff to do after the class. And it was really helpful because they were willing to do the work. And when I got done becoming a personal trainer, obviously I got into real estate. That's why I'm making this video. But the reason I got into real estate is because I went through this one of the reasons I got into real estate was I went through this whole process of trying to buy my first home and trying to figure out if it was the right time to buy. Because at the time, one of the mentors, who's no longer my mentor anymore, told me, don't buy right now. It's at the top of the market. You don't want to invest in real estate. And I almost listened to him, but I'm so glad I did it. And so I took this methodical approach of trying to figure out when the right time for me was to buy. And it was very similar to giving somebody advice on personal training. I had to give myself metrics. I had to recognize, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. These are the metrics that I need to evaluate to see if this is the right program for me. And then as long as those make sense, then I can take a step forward. And so I want to give you some of the things that I learned along the way so that if you're thinking about stopping renting and to buy a home, you can at least make an honest assessment of where you're at and what you're trying to accomplish. And hopefully this will give you some insight. So in 2017, I didn't want to buy a home. I couldn't afford a home, or so I thought I couldn't afford a home. It was $380,000 and the interest rate was 3%. Now, right now it's October 2022, and if you hear that data, you're like, you're an idiot. You definitely could afford it. And you're right, I could. I had to get past my own fears, my own hurdles. And so when I started to evaluate, here are the things that I asked myself to figure out if this was the right time. The first question I asked myself is this going to stop me from living the life that I want to live? At the time, I loved to travel. I just started dating my wife and I wanted to take her on trips. We were going to Coachella. We were going to Italy for a wedding. I wanted to do a lot of fun things, and I didn't know that if buying a home was going to stop me from doing those things. But listen, you have to have a roof over your head. I had to live somewhere, and so I had to evaluate, will what I'm paying for rent be that much different than what I would pay in a mortgage? And the reality was it wasn't, right? I could take a look at that and I was like, this isn't going to impact my life that much. That was a little more expensive, right? But at the same time, it's an investment. Oh, and by the way, it wasn't going to stop me from traveling because we moved in together. She's going to be paying half the rent, right? So I had to go through this whole financial, cost analysis to figure out if it was the right move for me and if it was going to stop me from living the life I wanted. Because if it was going to stop me from doing the things I loved, I wasn't going to do it. It wasn't just going to be the right time for me at that point. So I really had to evaluate that and be honest with myself on what was the most important thing to me at that time. The second thing I looked at was, is buying a home actually going to be an upgrade from this shitty apartment I'm living in? And when I saw what my mortgage rate would be versus what my rent would be, it was a drastic upgrade, because rent at Denver at the time was just trickling up. It was going through the roof. Right now, as we record this video, I think Denver's in the top 5 in highest rents in the country. And the reality is, I was like, well, if rent continues to go up, pretty soon I'm going to be living in an even shittier apartment because I'm not going to be able to afford this one. Now, that is taking a little short-sighted because I did think my career would take off and I would grow and evolve. But at the time, I was like, listen, this is a major upgrade to get into a home that it can be my own. And once I'm in there, I can make it my own. I can make updates to it. I can elevate the value of it by doing things to the house. And what I realized is just making that simple adjustment, that simple framework in my head, that simple change in my perceived framework in my head, I was able to realize that oh, my rent is going to be this, my mortgage is going to be this. It of course makes sense for me to go from this to this because I'm going to get more value for myself. And then the last question that I had to ask myself was, how long do I plan to live in Denver? How long do I plan to live in this location? Is it going to be 2 years or less? Probably, maybe it's not the right time for me to buy. But I knew that I was going to be here for 5 years. I know I'm going to be here for life, but I knew I was going to be here for at least 5 years. And so at that point, I was like, okay, cool. If I'm going to plant some roots here, why not stop making somebody else rich and start making myself wealthy by investing in myself? Because a mortgage is basically just a forced savings account. You're paying that every month, and eventually you will see that when you go to sell your home. And then the last question, number 4, that I ask myself is, what happens if my life just goes to shit? What happens if I lose my job? What happens if I can't pay my bills? So I like to run contingency plans. I like to have like a backup plan so that if things kind of hit the fan, I know exactly how to get out of it. And there is 3 options. 1, I could turn it into a long-term rental. I could rent it out at market rate, make some cash, have somebody else live there paying my mortgage, and that way I can continue to own that property and take advantage of the appreciation. 2, I could live there and then also turn it into a Airbnb. I could rent it out on the weekend, look at what market rates are, can help offset some of my costs there. And the third one is, can I live here for 2 years? Do I have enough in my savings account, or can I use some of the solutions that I provided earlier to get me to 2 years? If I can live there for 2 years, make a 2-year commitment, at the end of that 2 years, I can sell it and I can take advantage of all the appreciation without paying capital gains tax. Now, if you're hearing this and you're like, cool, I'm going through this is starting to make sense to me, here's my advice. Call one of your friends, call multiple of your friends who owns a home and ask them if they like their real estate agent. If they do, and they would recommend them, then pick up the phone and call the agent and let the agent know, like, hey, I'm not trying to buy a home right now. I might be, I just don't know if I am, but I need some help. Any good agent, any great agent is going to put your needs in front of their own. So you should have a conversation with them, let them know what you're thinking about, let them know your concerns, and have them provide you with information. Have them give you information so that you can make an educated decision. They should not make you feel like this is the great time to buy. They shouldn't make you feel anything. They should give you the information so that you can have clarity on it. And when you have that clarity, then you can control all the decisions. If it's the right time, great. If it's not the right time, then you can make a decision on how you can put a plan in place and feel in control of those decisions every single day until you get to a spot where you can confidently feel like this is the right time to buy. Now, if the agents you call are just complete dog shit, give me a shout and I'm happy to help. All right, hope this was helpful. Take care. I'll see y'all next time.